So we were playing a original adventure that I'd written where basically this beholder has built himself a mech suit, and he's trying to take over the countryside of Faerun by grafting iron armor onto creatures and sentient creatures or animals or whatever. So first they go through these towns stopping these trolls and these giants, and as they're going they're like, what is all this metal that they're wearing, which was great for our druid because she just said heat metal and then they couldn't take it off, so they were just burning to death. So eventually they get to the end, and I had put this up on Reddit. I was like, is this a good idea? And it got 1,500 some odd upvotes, or over 2,000. I was like, it must be a good idea. But it's basically Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a brain inside a body. And I'll show it to you. Here's a peek inside my closet, everybody.
It's so closety.
This is it right here. So he's got a giant sword arm. He's got a cold cannon. He exists in this little canopy so he can pop out and use his beholder beams. And we're going through his cave, and they get there, and I'm like, all right, here we go. We're going to do this encounter. And it only took a couple death rays from the beholder for them to be like, gulp. And my wizard was like, I'm going to do something crazy. If this breaks the game, I completely understand, but let me try it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So he runs underneath the beholder, and he throws up rope trick directly underneath him. And he has his owl familiar take his portable hole into the room that he creates. And if you know those two items, if you put any two things that are extra dimensional spaces inside of each other, they explode and are immediately transferred to the astral plane. So he took the big bad guy to the astral plane. And I'm sitting there and I'm flabbergasted. I'm like, what? My wife is like hitting me below the table, like, let him have it. I'm like, he's gonna get it. I'm just trying to understand what just happened. And eventually I just gave him a standing ovation. And I was like, you encounter over. He's gone, but he's not dead. And I've written it into the interlude before we start Strahd that he's definitely not dead. He's out there in the astral plane, plotting his revenge. But I was just like, holy
outside
crap,
the
man.
realm thinking.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know this will work. If it does, it'll be amazing. And if it doesn't, like, he was so visibly tense and stressed that he was like sweating on camera. He's like, I don't know. Can I do this? Is this allowed?
You gotta give the players those moments when they grasp them. For one, it encourages creativity, and two, if you're the DM and you're kind of like the god of this universe, if the players just outthink you, you gotta let them have it. That happens very often. Sometimes you make a trap or a room with a puzzle, and they figure out some clever way. It's like, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I guess that works.
Yeah. So Timbus wild shaping and flying over the awful pit of death, and then failing a bunch of dexterity checks on the other side. But that's a different story.
Yeah, and then getting swallowed by the
froghemoth.
The froghemoth.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Simple things like I gave my players boots of levitation and an immovable rod, so they figured they can get to any height they need to by clicking the levitation boots, taking the immovable rod, moving it up, clicking it, pulling themselves up with the levitation boots, and just doing that over and over again. And it's amazing. Like, okay, well, verticality doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a challenge for Ted as a new DM dealing with a character that can fly.
Yeah,
because he's designing things, and I'm like, well, I'm going to fly over there, and he's like, oh shit, third dimension. Well, you're fine. And I was like, ha, bird person.
Yeah,
all right, y'all.
You don't see anything up there as you're flying above the camp. There's not
I'm
really
so
anything
blind.
up there.